start with the prayer for the text. Vasudevendra Yogindram Nattva Jnanapradam Gurum Mumukshunam Hitarthaya Tattva Bodah Vidhiyate. So far we have covered the first two sections. We completed the second section in the last class. The first section covered the qualifications required for study of self, which we have already seen. The fourfold qualifications, that is the sadhana chatushta sampatti, viveka, vairagya, then the sixfold qualities that we need to have, and mumukshutva. The second section covered what is called as the vyashti vichara, the discussion of the individual self. So the section started with a statement that only Atma is Satyam, Atma is the truth, all the rest are Mithya. And then it defined what is Atma. The first definition of Atma is Satchidananda Swarupam, but it also defined what is Anatma. So first we have to understand what is not Atma. So in that we had covered three sets of things. First is the three bodies: the physical body, the subtle body, and the causal body. Then the three states of existence: the waking state, the dream state, and the deep sleep state. And the third one is the five koshas, or the five sheaths of experience. The five sheaths consisting of Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha, Manomaya kosha, Vijnanamaya kosha, and Anandamaya kosha. So all these were discussed in detail, and then finally we arrived at the conclusion that none of this is me, because everything was negated, because the body cannot be me, because when I say my body, I am someone else who is looking at the body. My table, my chair, my pen, my car. So that means I am different from that. So similarly with the mind, the intellect, everything was negated. So what is left behind is only the Atma. So then, if I am not all of that, then by default I have to be the Atma. Atma was described as a Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa. Sat is existence, Chit is consciousness, and Ananda Swarupa is the fullness. So we understood what is consciousness. Now consciousness, as we had understood, it is neither a part of the body, nor a product of the body, nor a property of the body. It is similar to our electric system. The bulb or the fan is not a product of electricity. It is not a part of the electricity, neither it is a property of the electricity. So similarly, the consciousness is not part of the body, nor the product of the body, nor the property of the body. It is not that the body emits consciousness. Again, further it says that it is not limited by the extent of the body, because consciousness extends beyond the body. Like electricity, it is not limited to the appliances. If the bulb fuses, electricity continues to exist. Only the bulb goes. It's the same thing. once our body goes, we continue to exist but without a body. So that is consciousness. And the fifth attribute of consciousness is it is eternal. It continues, it has been always been there, and it will continue to be there. The world may evolve or disintegrate, evolution and dissolution goes on continuously. So consciousness remains even when dissolution happens. So we understood about the microcosm, the individual aspect of the total. This is called Vyashti Vichara, the individual part of the microcosm. Now we are moving into the third section, which is called Samashti Vichara. Samashti means the total. So what is creation, how it happens, is going to be discussed in this particular section. So the first verse in this section is Atha Chaturvishati Tattvotpatti Prakaram Vakshyamaha. It says, thereafter we shall explain the mode of origin of the 24 essential principles. This is what it says. So the author says, we will discuss. So he doesn't say it is I am going to say, because it is not his view. It is the view of the Shastras as he has learned from his teacher, his Guru. So he is just giving this thing to the lineage of Gurus through which this knowledge has been is passing. So he says we are going to discuss about the 24 essential principles, the origin of this. Now what these 24 principles are will be subsequently told. We are not going to start with what are the 24 principles. As we go ahead, we will understand what those 24 principles are. So basically, the creation is divided into 24 basic principles based on which creation happens. So this is what the author is going to disclose now. One by one he is going to unfold the principles. So moving further, he says, Brahma Shraya Sattva Rajas Tamo Gunatmika Maya Asti. So basically it means Maya having its locus on Brahman and endowed with three aspects: Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. So this is the first statement. So for creation to happen, for example, for anything to happen, for a creation to happen, there has to be two aspects, the male and the female aspect, without which creation cannot happen. So here he talks about two aspects. One is called as the Brahman, other one is called as Maya. Now these two aspects together form creation. Now let us understand each of these aspects. What is Brahman? We have already understood what is Atma. So Brahman is nothing but Atma in total. When it is in an individual, when we consider from the point of an individual, then the same consciousness is called Atma. When it is considered from the point of the total, the same consciousness is called as Brahman. So what is this Brahman? Like Atma, it is eternal. It is the one which sustains everything. Because without Brahman, it is like the light. When you switch on the light, all the activities happen under the light. But the light does not influence the activities. The light only provides the platform for the activities to happen. Similarly, Brahman also is a consciousness principle. It is eternal, it has always been there, it will continue to be there. Because without the consciousness principle, the world will not exist. So Brahman is the consciousness principle. Under the consciousness principle only everything exists. So like again the example of electric system. Without the electricity, nothing can function. The electricity doesn't depend on the appliances. It continues to exist. The appliances depend on electricity. If there is no electricity, the appliances will not work, the bulb will not light up, the fan will not rotate. But whether the fan rotates or the bulb does not burn doesn't have an effect on the electricity. It continues to exist in the system. So similarly, Brahman is the consciousness principle which continues to exist irrespective of the other aspect. Now coming to the other aspect, which is called as Maya. Now what is this Maya? Maya has got three gunas, as we call them, three attributes: Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. So Maya principle has three attributes: Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Now for understanding, we consider Brahman as the father and Maya as the mother. Though there is nothing male or female, it is not that Brahman is male, because Brahman is consciousness. There is neither a male or a female concept of Brahman. It is pure consciousness. But for the sake of understanding, since we have to understand how this creation happens, so Brahman is the we can consider as the father, and Maya as the mother. Again, Maya is neither a female nor a male this thing. Only difference is Maya depends on Brahman. Without Brahman, Maya cannot exist. So Maya is again what we started off initially is Mithya. So the first statement, as we remember, Atma is Satyam, all the rest are Anatma, which is seemingly real. So Maya consists of three attributes: Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Now how these two come together? This is the like Maya again is an eternal principle. Maya is in seed form, as we had understood earlier. It has always been there. It will continue to be there. Brahman is changeless because it has no attributes. It is Brahman all the time. It is Brahman. So it continues to exist as Brahman. There is no change in Brahman. On the other hand, Maya is continuously changing. So when Maya and Brahman come into contact, the world exists as we see it now. But Maya is totally dependent on Brahman. without Brahman, Maya cannot exist. But without Maya, Brahman cannot create anything. So these two principles have to go together for creation. So that is the basic understanding. So we need to understand these two aspects, Brahman and Maya. Now coming to Maya, it has got three attributes. Sattva, which stands for knowledge, or it's Jnana Shakti as we understood earlier. Rajas is for activity, Kriya Shakti. And Tamas is called Dravya. It actually suppresses the other two. So these three aspects together form Maya. Now, how these three aspects work is what the next we will be discussing in detail about.
Could you please repeat?
The three attributes. Yeah. Sattva, which stands for knowledge. Rajas, which stands for activity, Kriya Shakti, Jnana Shakti and Kriya Shakti. And Tamas, which is the Dravya Shakti, or the one which suppresses the other two. The more we relate with Tamas, as we understand further, we will understand the importance of these three gunas, because ultimately the gunas decide what we are. Everything in the world is made up of these three gunas. The combination of these three gunas varies. There are innumerable combinations. How much of sattva, how much of rajas, how much of tamas, and what will be the effect of each of these three when something is predominant, when tamas is predominant. For example, the body is completely tamas. That is why the body always wants to rest. We are always tired. But that is required, because without tamas, we will not, if we are always working, the body will not get rest, it cannot function. The body is naturally tamas. But if we are predominantly tamas, we will not be able to achieve anything. So we need rajas to do activities. And then ultimately we need sattva, which is the knowledge aspect. The more sattva we have, the more spiritually we will grow. So the whole game, you can take it as a game. In fact, the whole concept of all this is like a game. Everything goes on and we are looking for probably that ultimate eternal happiness. Probably finding the eternal happiness is the goal of the game. We are searching for that all around us. We are not able to find it. We get glimpses of it here and there, but we feel that is that, but then we discover it is not that. Then ultimately we realize that eternal happiness is within us. And within us also we start searching, where is it, within the body or the mind, and so ultimately the realization is that you are that same what you are looking for. The very thing that you are searching for is you. So once you discover you are the person you are looking for and you are very clear about it, the game ends. So you don't again have to go through the process of coming back and searching for that. So you come in different forms, and every form you are only looking for that happiness. So once you discover you are that happiness, the game ends. So it's a very game which everyone is playing the same game, but we don't realize that we are playing a game, and we get caught up with all the things which are going on instead of looking for the final goal of the game. we get caught in all kinds of things, and then we don't actually go towards the goal of finding that eternal happiness. So that is again, you can say it's a game played by Maya. So Maya is consisting of these three aspects, attributes. Among these three, the more sattva you have, the more you progress, the more you are closer to yourself. So the game is, you can say, the purpose of life is to increase the sattva guna, reduce the rajoguna, and minimize the tamo guna to the minimum. So these three gunas, actually the whole life is a game of these three gunas. Once we understand how to handle these gunas, how to increase the sattva guna, how to minimize the rajoguna, and then bring down the tamoguna to the minimum possible. So that is how these three aspects work. Now the next is, from this, the 5 elements are born. From Brahman and Maya coming together, the 5 elements are born. So first is, from Brahman and Maya, tata akasha sambhutaha. First, akasha or space is born. Now, space is something which is, people may think of it as some emptiness. But space by itself is an element. Even modern science now says space can be bent, space can be stretched. So it is some elastic kind of a thing which can be stretched or bent. So space is not emptiness. Now what is the space is recognized through sound. So space has only one attribute, which is sound. Now this sound is not audible to normal ears, because all the sounds are contained in space, and that one sound which is predominant in space is Om. So everything, the entire space is pervaded by Om, Omkara as we call it. The entire space is only pervaded by Omkara. To listen to that, we need to elevate our minds to such a level that we are able to hear that. But whether we hear it or not, our ears are not tuned to that at this moment. But rishis and our forefathers who have been meditating for years, in the high level of their meditative state, they can hear the sound of Omkara. From space, Akashad Vayuhu. From space, Vayu. So Vayu is born out of, air is born out of space. Now air has got 2 attributes. One is the touch and one is sound. So the first element, space, has got only one attribute, which is the sound. The next element, which is air, has got 2. It has got sound also and touch. So that is why we can feel the air. Even though it is not visible, we can feel the air. So when we switch on the fan, we can feel the air touching our skin. So Vayu has got two attributes, sound and touch. Now the third one is Vayos Tejaha. From fire, from air, fire is born. Now the fire aspect or the fire element has got three attributes. We can see it also. Other than sound and touch, we can touch the fire. We can hear the fire. When the fire is burning, we can hear the sound of fire burning. So this element has got three attributes. So as things become more and more gross, more of our senses are connected to that. The next one is Tejasa Apaha. From fire, water is born. So water it has got four attributes. It has sound, you can hear the water flowing, you can touch, you can see the water, and you can also taste the water. So water is available for four of our senses. And finally from Adyabaha Prithvi, from water earth is born. So among all the five, earth is the most gross. You can also smell the earth. So earth you can hear, because when there's a earthquake, you can hear the sound of the earth. You can see the earth, you can touch the earth, you can smell the earth, and you can also the other fifth aspect also. So all the five senses are available for the earth aspect. So these five aspects are born from one, the other comes. And everything is, so now the next stage is from the subtle elements, the subtle things are born. For example, from all the subtle aspects of all this, the mind, which is subtle, is born. And from the gross aspects, the body is born. It will be discussed further. What is how this grossification happens also will be discussed, because subtle things will produce only subtle aspects. So we cannot see somebody's mind, we cannot see somebody's intellect, but it is also made up of the five elements, but in subtle form. When it comes to the body, it is gross, because these subtle elements are converted to gross elements by a process called grossification. How it is done also in subsequent verses it will be revealed. So coming back to the first process is to create the elements. So Brahman and Maya come together. Maya has got three attributes: Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And the first, when Brahman and Maya come together, first space is produced. From space, air is produced. From air, fire is produced. From fire, water is produced. And from water, earth is produced. So the process of creation, one by one, happens. So with these five, then the further things happen. So that is the basic principle. So like this, the author will be revealing all the 24 elements which make up the process of. So that is how in science also now they are discovering, they are talking about the Big Bang theory and so many things which have already been revealed in our Shastras. So what they are discovering is what is already known to our Rishis and Munis long back, and they have revealed all these knowledge. But unfortunately, nobody is aware or nobody wants to know. So we think that only modern science is, whatever modern science says is acceptable. Because Rishis and Munis, they are all some people sitting somewhere, we don't know what they have done and what is the basis that we can accept their findings as truth. So science is trying to discover what has already been there. If people just accept our Shastras, you don't need to spend a lot of money and this thing to rediscover what is already there. It is just establishing what is already there. And still there are many things which cannot be discovered by modern science, because all these subtle things need a lot of understanding. It is not something which is directly. Gross things can be proven easily, but subtle things you need to accept and we have to sort of accept that like Shraddha, that is what Shraddha is all about. And then we are always open to asking questions to understand in case we don't. So this is the first stage of creation. So we will stop with this today, because I think too many things we pack in one this thing, it becomes a little difficult, because the concept of Brahman and Maya is the base. So once we understand this concept, everything else will be based on this, because the three gunas are the whole basis of everything. So once we understand the role of these gunas, the goal becomes very clear, because the goal is to increase Sattva Guna. The text will be again talking in detail about what is Sattva Guna, what is Rajo Guna, what is Tamo Guna. So each of these aspects will be dealt with in detail. So first is to understand that everything depends on these three gunas. So that is why Lord Vishnu is called as Mayadhara. So he controls the Maya. So the concept of God. So concept of God is nothing but again Brahman plus Maya. God is also the same, but he has all things in, he is completely Sattva. So that is the difference between a normal being like us and what we term as God. So when Maya and the same Maya and Brahman together form Ishvara, as we call the Lord. That Lord is pure Sattva. So now we can understand the difference between the Lord and us, and it is in our hands to increase our Sattva to that extent. We can also become the same. So the whole process is to increase the Sattva Guna, which subsequently we will be understanding how to increase the Sattva Guna. In fact, the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita talks about the three gunas and what is to be done. Here we are just going to talk what are the three gunas, but Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita in the 14th chapter he discusses more in detail, and he also gives the ways and means to increase our Sattva Guna. So what are the things we should do? What are the things we should not do to increase the Sattva Guna? So that is the process of moving forward spiritually. So we will conclude now and continue the next part in the next class.